Nippon Zaibatsu is one of my all-time favorite strategy board games. The original Nippon came out in 2015 and I started playing it in 2019. However, this is the 10th anniversary edition and I think it's better. So, that is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why Nippon Zaibatsu exceeds its predecessor and remains one of my top favorites to this very day. The best way to articulate why a game really strikes a chord for me is to look at the perfect board game formula. Now, I've already done a much longer video fully breaking down this game and every single one of the attributes. So for the 3 things that this game really does best, we're going to look at 1, strategy, namely how it has just the right amount of luck to keep you on your toes. Then 2, complexity, which in this game is not about how many rules the game has, but rather the complex depth of every single action and how it can pay off down the line. And then finally 3, interaction, which is just so beautifully done for a Euro game like this one. So first, strategy. This is a worker pickup game. So players are picking up a worker, adding it to their player board, and when they choose to, or when they have run out of space to take any more workers, the players consolidate. It's during this phase where the benefits and the expenses of all of these workers comes into effect. But what I like about the element of luck is that whenever this worker pool is refreshed, it can completely change what's available to you. And suddenly, your plan to do one thing can become way too expensive because of the colors that you needed no longer being available. And that is what requires you to pivot. When it comes to complexity, there are 2 ways in which a game can be deemed complex. The first is in having a huge number of rules, and the second is in having rules with deep implications. Of those 2, this latter is my favorite, and that is what Nippon Zaibatsu embodies. Because in this game, there are only 9 actions. It isn't too hard to teach this game, yet everything you do has different bonuses that can be received or ways to affect your income that will affect you in future rounds. Being a complex game, it is beyond the scope of this video to talk about all of the different elements of complexity. However, I will give you one of my favorite examples. In the bottom right corner of the board represents the Iwakura mission, which is a change from the 2015 edition. This is where you place your ships. And so when you take an action to place your ships, you're going to take a worker upgrade and place that on your player board. That upgrade for the rest of the game is going to give you increased bonus whenever you consolidate after having taken that color worker. So there's so much depth in just one little decision. And what this game does so well is initially your board is entirely open. You can do anything. But as you make decisions, you lock yourself down into a more specific strategy. Your strategy just gets narrower and narrower and narrower. Beautifully done in Nippon. The thing with interaction is that once a game becomes very highly interactive, it becomes less about the game mechanics and more about the negotiations between players. When you're doing that, I really enjoy it, but it becomes a different kind of game for me. If I'm playing a Euro game, I want to do the classic Euro game thing where I have my own player board and my own factories and I'm developing my own industry and everything's. I like things to be isolated because that puts the emphasis on the game mechanics. And when the game mechanics are really fun, I don't want to be interrupted by opponents. But if you're only doing your own thing, then it just becomes solitaire. Why are you even sitting at a table with other people if you don't even interact with them at all? So the key is finding an element of interaction that makes you care about what your opponents are doing, even while they're not, screwing you up. How do you do that? So in this game, there's 2 elements of interaction. I think one is excellent. The other one might be a little too cutthroat. But So first, it's this worker pickup mechanic where you're trying to prioritize the colors that are going to keep your costs low, but you can't do that without also paying attention to the colors that your opponents are going to take. Because if they start prioritizing the same colors that you're prioritizing, you're going to be stepping on each other's toes, and that's going to affect your bottom line. Big deal there. So I really like that because it makes you mind what people are doing, and when you are stepping on each other's toes, it forces you to pivot, which again, I really love. Other element of interaction is the region scoring or the influence scoring in this game. So this is where it can be a bit cutthroat because players can displace opponents by placing an influence marker of a larger value. But there are some things about this that I think kind of balance it out. One is that the available influence markers are limited. You can unlock more by developing your R&D track, but because they're limited, it kind of puts a limit on how much displacing of your opponents you can do. And the other thing that really kind of works well in this game is that when you get your markers back, that frees you up to use them again. Every time you use them, you can get a bonus for that region. So in that regard, I do think that while it's very cutthroat, there are some ways that players are compensated for being removed from a region that can pay off in the long run. But all in all, the game is so well done. It tickles my brain in just the right way. It's something I enjoy introducing to people because it's very engaging. So that is Nippon Zaibatsu. It is currently a Kickstarter. You can find a link in the description. Thank you for watching this video. And if you want to see a little bit more in-depth discussion about the entire game, you can also check out the full breakdown video, which I have already posted. All right, see you next time.